I'd like to welcome you to the Rogers Arena, the future home of the Invictus Games 2025 closing ceremonies. Alors bonjour et bienvenue à l'Arena Rogers, le lieu désigné pour la cérémonie de clôture des Jeux Invictus en 2025. Je suis le colonel Marilyn Chenette. I'm the Deputy Commander of the Canadian Armed Forces Transition Group, proudly serving in Canadian Forces for 29 years as a Health Services Operations Officer, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies for this event today. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that Rogers Arena is located on the traditional territory of the Musqueam people. We give thanks to the Musqueam people for welcoming us on their territory. Haishka. Over the course of the Games, we will be working diligently with all 4 First Nation communities where the Games will be held to live up to our collective responsibility to honor and respect their protocols and homeland, to build relationships, and to engage meaningfully with their knowledge in these Games and beyond. I would also like to welcome today our distinguished guests. Chief Wayne Sparrow of the Musqueam Nation, the Right Honourable Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Premier John Horgan, Minister Lawrence MacAulay, Minister Melanie Mark, Lieutenant General Al Meinziger, who is the Commander of the Royal Canadian Air Force, here representing the Canadian Armed Forces, along with Chief Warrant Officer John Hall, the Royal Canadian Air Force Chief Warrant Officer, and the Invictus competitors who have joined us here today. Welcome. We would also like to thank everyone else who has joined us and is showing their support for the Invictus Games 2025. I would now like to invite Chief Sparrow to say a few words.
Siam, Siaya, Ijuail, Siam. I just want to start off by a couple of corrections. It's the shared territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh, and I want to acknowledge Chief Dennis and Chief Jen Thomas and Spokesperson Wilson here. They're both here with us. This territory here is the shared territory of all 3 nations. I know it was probably a little bit of a miscue that we've been taking turns doing welcomings on behalf of the 3, and it's my privilege and honor to do the welcome today, but I want to acknowledge our leaders and our chiefs from the other community. I just want to take this opportunity on behalf of the 3 nations to welcome each and every one of you here today. You know, it's a privilege and honor to be standing here in front of each and every one of you. Our leaders are here. Our hands are up to both the Premier and the Prime Minister about the hard work that you've been doing with First Nations, and I want to publicly acknowledge that. You know, with our community, when it comes to sport, 2010 brought us together. There are so many exciting things there. We had some differences between the 3 nations with overlap and how things change. Sport brought us together in 2010 and built now to where we are today. And it was from the leadership of the federal and provincial government in the cities, both of Whistler and Vancouver. So I want to acknowledge that and showing how much what sport does to bring us together in our culture and our teachings and everything like that. So I just want to acknowledge and welcome each and every one of you here. I want to thank Nick for following protocol, and it's been a privilege. I know Wilson's been traveling and working on behalf of us 3. So I just want to, once again, I'm glad to be here on behalf of the 3 and be a privilege and honor to speak on behalf of the 3 and to welcome each and every one of you here for this exciting announcement. Haitchka Siam. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Sparrow, and thank you for the correction on that. I would now like to call upon the Right Honourable Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to come and say a few words.
Good afternoon. I'd also like to begin by acknowledging that we're on the traditional Coast Salish territory of the Musqueam, Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. Je suis content d'être ici aujourd'hui avec le ministre MacAulay et nos députés libéraux, Talib, Terry, Wilson, Ron, Parm. Thank you all for being here. Mais aussi, c'est un grand plaisir d'être ici avec mon ami John Horgan, Premier ministre de la Colombie-Britannique. Je tiens aussi à saluer la ministre provinciale, Mélanie Mark, et le chef Wayne Sparrow, entre autres chefs. It's great to be here at Rogers Arena with Team Canada competitors from the most recent Invictus Games. This is a place where we come to see teams show us their strength and determination and cheer them on. Quand on regarde les gens compétitionner et donner tout ce qu'ils ont, ça nous donne tous l'envie d'être meilleurs et d'aller plus loin. Donc les militaires courageux qui participent aux Jeux Invictus nous inspirent tous. Ils représentent le meilleur de nous. This will be the second time Canada has been chosen as the host for the Games. But for the first time ever, and classically Canadian, these games will include winter sports. To support this uniquely Canadian event, our government is providing $15 million so we can celebrate and witness incredible competitors from all around the world. Though we all know that when it comes to winter sports, our Canadian competitors will show them how it's done. But just to make sure of that, we're also providing $1 million to Soldier On, so they can help train and equip Team Canada. Soldier On is a program of the Canadian Armed Forces that helps support recovery for ill and injured CAF members and veterans, and they know that sports can and should be a huge part of that recovery. Un peu plus tôt, on a regardé les athlètes d'Équipe Canada jouer au curling en fauteuil roulant, l'un des sports d'hiver qu'on va voir aux Jeux en 2025. L'équipe était très habile et on pouvait sentir leur énergie et leur force. On a tout bien hâte de les voir compétitionner. Particularly because a little earlier I had the chance to speak with competitors about their service, about the challenges they face, and about the profound impacts sports have had on their recovery. I think it's easy to underestimate or almost shrug off the impact that Invictus and sport can have on injured CAF members on their path to recovery. When you think about it, those who choose to step up and serve their country do it with everything they are and everything they have, and it comes rightly to define them. They give the very best of themselves to serve their country, and they get used to it, and they know that they are there to give their very best in service of the country. And then an injury comes along, and suddenly they don't feel like they can give their best to their country anymore. They don't feel that they're doing as much as they could before. And of course, injury or no, they have so much to continue serving the country, but so much of it is mindset. And the conversation we had earlier, we talked about the challenge, talked about the competitive spirit, the drive for excellence, but also about the grieving process of learning to understand that you aren't the person you were before you got injured. That doesn't mean you can't be a world-class competitor. You can't have every bit of that drive and that push and that quest to give all you are to your teammates, to your service, to your country. That's what Invictus allows not just competitors, but their comrades, their families, and all of us to live, to experience, to celebrate. I'm talking with Mike, a retired infantry captain who injured his spinal cord in duty and service to his country, and how much sport and competition allowed him to continue to push himself to be the very best. how Marcy Lynn, who competes to show the world that her PTSD doesn't define her. Like all of us, every day has its challenges. But Invictus and the work everyone here is doing in support of them highlights that every day also has its victories and has its success. Mike, Marcy Lynn, Pat, avec ton histoire inspirante, merci pour votre service. Merci de toujours nous montrer ce que c'est l'excellence au service du pays, au service de l'autre. You show us just how strong this human spirit is. You dedicated your lives to fighting for others. You put it all on the line to defend our freedom and our democracy. We are always grateful. We're even more grateful that we also get the chance to cheer you on as proud members of Team Canada. Before I end today, I want to take a moment to recognize all the work that the True Patriot Love Foundation did to pull together Canada's successful Invictus bid for 2025. Thank you to True Patriot Love for all you do to support Canadian Armed Forces members and veterans and their families. I know all families, all Canadians are looking forward to welcoming the courageous, indomitable servicemen and women to the 2025 Games, and together we'll celebrate the power of sport, the power of recovery, and mostly the power of the human spirit. Merci tout le monde. Thank you all.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Premier Ministre. I would now like to invite Premier Horgan to come and say a few words.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here on the traditional territory of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. It's great to see so many people here at BC Place and Rogers Arena, and I want to thank the Aquilini family. I was thinking of another event that may happen a year after this one, but I want to thank the Aquilini family for allowing us to come in here today, and also providing this as the venue for the closing ceremonies at the coming Invictus Games in 2025 in Vancouver-Whistler. It is truly exciting for Minister Mark and myself to be here today. We have been working with the Invictus organization to try and get the Games landed here in British Columbia going back to 2017, 2018. Of course, COVID got in the way, and rather than following The Hague and Dusseldorf, we got pushed further away. But I think that delay has been the best possible news for British Columbia, the best possible news for Invictus, because we will have, as the Prime Minister said, in a quintessentially Canadian way, the first hybrid and the first winter games, including sliding events, skiing events at Whistler. A world-class event is going to be taking place here, and I'm very excited to announce that the province of British Columbia will match the federal contribution of $15 million to ensure that the event comes off without a hitch, and will continue to support athletes as they prepare to participate in 2025. There you go. I want to just comment on Chief Sparrow's introduction, getting us started in a good way and reminding us all of the challenges that the 2010 Games faced over a decade of preparations, and the uncertainty that the public had about inviting the world to British Columbia. But what a grand event that was, and what a great unifying event that was, and particularly for the three nations, for Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh, to take full participation within their territories, inviting the world to come to British Columbia. And again, if things roll out, inviting them again in a few more years down the road. But it is that true sense of participation that gets us all involved. I grew up playing a lot of sports, and I had a real opportunity with the Prime Minister to talk to participants at The Hague and to hear not just about the power of sport, but the power of assisting each other. And I look at our armed forces personnel who are here today, who, as the Prime Minister says, get up every morning in defense of the democracy that we cherish, in defense of the freedoms that we hold so dear. And to have an injury, sometimes visible, sometimes invisible, in the discharge of that responsibility can be daunting for an individual, daunting for a family. But it's groups like True Patriot Love, groups like the Invictus organization, and groups like the Canadian military who come together to help those in need. And this Games will be, as the Prime Minister says, a true insight into the human condition, the human spirit, indomitable to the end. To talk to the participants as we did before the game, to have some laughs about being voted the most bizarre volleyball team by all of the other participants. They're going to get some T-shirts made up. They might be going on, I guess it would be Kids in the Hall now, now that it's back on the air, to do a little bit of comedy. But it was the participation, the smiles that just talking about participation evoked that gives us a real sense of the power of sport. It's not just about the winning, it's not just about the participating, it's about the support that all of us give to each other each and every day that's represented by this initiative. And the families, of course, who have to work with a loved one who's struggling with an impairment, whatever it may be, visible or invisible, that benefit from knowing that the community has your back. The community is there with you, and the community will collectively celebrate the indomitable spirit of the human condition in 2025 in Vancouver-Whistler. It's going to be great. I can't wait to get going. We'll see you then.
Thank you very much, Premier Horgan. I would now like to invite Minister Macaulay to come and say a few words.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, Premier Horgan, Minister Mark, Chief Sparrow. It's so important to recognize the First Nations territory. Veterans, members of the military, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. For me, it is a great honor to be here. I want to also start by congratulating True Patriot Love for winning the right to host the Invictus Games here in Canada in 2025. A lot of hard work. Thank you so much. I heard a lot from you, and now it's a great day. It's a big deal for the team to get to compete in these games, and it's a big deal for us to get the opportunity to cheer them on. Canada has been at the Invictus Games since the very start in 2014. The Games are more than a week-long elite sporting events that are an opportunity for rehabilitation, recovery, both physically and psychologically. The next Games in Canada will be the first to include adaptive winter sports. Competitors will be tested in new ways, and spectators will get to see a whole new range of what they can do. And all of it in world-class facilities, right here in British Columbia, one of the most beautiful provinces in the country. And as Minister of Veterans Affairs, I particularly appreciate that you're making plans to recognize the achievement and the sacrifice of Indigenous veterans across Canada and to recognize their military history. I am so pleased that the government has made this decision to support the Invictus Games 2025 with this $15 million funding. On behalf of all Canadians, I wish everyone involved with this great event all the success in the Games. I can't wait to cheer on Team Canada in 2025 in Vancouver. Now I would like to invite my colleague, Minister Mark, the Minister of Tourism, Art, Culture and Sport for the province of British Columbia, to say a few words. Thank you so much.
You heard him say it. BC is one of the most beautiful provinces in Canada. Good afternoon, everyone. Simgagat, Sigadamana, Givit Wiltsik. My name's Melanie Mark. My Niska name's Lahaikwaskak, and I'm very proud to be here as the Minister for Tourism, Arts, Culture, and Sport. I won't repeat many of the messages that were so important to hear from our Prime Minister, our Premier, and our Minister about the power of sport, and thanking those service men and women. But I wanted to share a perspective that really inspired me when I got the presentation in January about bringing Invictus to BC and the power of partnership, the power of paddling together. and knowing that the Indigenous nations are leading this through along with our veterans, but showing that sport has the power to heal. I grew up in Native politics. I'm a politician. There aren't many things that unite us, but sport, in my opinion, is the great equalizer, and it is the thing that brings us together. But hearing the stories about being able to reinvent yourself, the Prime Minister talked a lot about being in service and what it means, that moment that you don't know that your life is going to change because you may never walk again, because you can't show the world what PTSD looks like, but that you have to have the grit, the determination to get up again. And Invictus has given that invitation to those athletes to be inspired, to get up, to show pride, to represent your country, to reinvent yourself, to give it your best. You are the best. So I want to thank you for being the best and serving our country and all of the other countries around the world. We are going to be inviting, in this house, I want to give a shout out to the Aquilini family and Rogers. This house is going to be rocking. When we invite the world, 550 athletes are going to be here from over 20 countries. And our part, Premier John Horgan, me as Minister of Sport, we did our part to make this happen, but it's the power of partnership. It's the paddling together that gets the best outcomes. I want to thank the athletes for sharing your stories and not giving up. As a kid from East Van, you just got to get up again, right? Give it your best shot, do your best, be your best, and you're going to get through it together. So thanks, everyone, and congratulations.
Thank you to the Government of Canada and the Province of British Columbia for that incredible commitment. This funding will help create one of the most inclusive and innovative Invictus Games to date, plus broaden the healing through the inclusion of winter sports and a deep connection with First Nations. To hear a little bit more about the impact of Invictus Games and how it has impacted and played on the lives of Canada's military community, I would like to introduce Master Corporal retired Natasha Dupuis. Natasha was a co-captain of Team Canada at the 2017 Toronto Invictus Games. She served in the British Columbia Regiment and now works with the Occupational Stress Injury Social Support Program within the Canadian Armed Forces Transition Group in the National Capital Region. Welcome, Natasha, and please come to the stage to say a few words.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure and honor for me to be here today. Before I share my story, I would like, as well as a few, congratulate True Patriot Love for their winning bid. Il n'y a rien comme porter la feuille d'érable et de compétitionner chez soi, donc félicitations. I served for just over 16 years in the Canadian Armed Forces as part of the Armored Corps. Actually, funny enough, I spent my first few years with the British Columbia Regiment at the armory that's right across the street from here. During my service, I deployed to Bosnia once and to Afghanistan twice. My last rotation in Afghanistan in 2009 was not easy. My squadron lost 4 soldiers to IEDs. I was first responder in a gruesome event where 2 of my comrades were killed and 3 were badly injured. I won't get into details, but I can tell you that I started struggling right away. I am not sure how I was able to finish my mission. Stress and adrenaline would be my best guess. When I got back to Canada, symptoms such as flashback, panic attacks, insomnia, and more kicked in. This is when I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Time and therapy worked, but sports are what helped me the most. In 2016, I got a call from Joe at Soldier On asking if I would be interested in replacing an athlete for the Orlando Games. I said yes right away and was very excited about the opportunity. The depression and all the medication I was taking made me gain some weight, and I saw this as my opportunity to regain control over my health and life. I joined the team halfway through the training with just 3 months to get up to speed. J'ai tout donné. By the time the games started, I was in the best shape I had been in years. I won 2 gold medals at track, a bronze medal at powerlifting, and more importantly, I made a lot of friends. I was hooked. The following games, I wanted in again, but this time I wanted to experience the entire process. Not only was I selected to be part of Team Canada, but I was also asked to be co-captain, the ultimate honor. I came back from Toronto with 3 gold medals in track and a silver medal at indoor rowing. So medals were nice, but the Invictus Games are not about medals or about winning. They're about progressing in your recovery as part of a community who understands and supports you. They are also about building lifelong friendships and support systems amongst peers. I hope the city is ready to be inspired and touched by the incredible spirit and resiliency of the Invictus Games athletes. I promise that you won't be disappointed. It will blow your mind. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you, Natasha, for your service, for your commitment to our country, and for sharing your story. What an incredible reminder of why the Invictus Games are so important. I would now like to welcome to the stage Nick Booth, the Chief Executive Officer of True Patriot Love, the organization that led the charge on securing the 2025 Games for Vancouver and Whistler. Nick, please come to the stage.
Thank you, Colonel Jeanette, for being here today and for your distinguished service to Canada, and to all the other members of the Canadian Armed Forces and veterans who are here with us today. Bienvenue à tous ceux qui se sont joints à nous aujourd'hui. Thank you also to Natasha for sharing the impact of your Invictus journey, not only on your own health and healing, but on the whole Invictus community here in Canada and around the world. In particular, of course, on behalf of True Patriot Love Foundation and all the military members, veterans, and their families who will benefit, I must offer our sincere thanks to the Government of Canada and to the Province of British Columbia for this wonderful contribution to the 2025 Invictus Games, and to Prime Minister Trudeau, Premier Horgan, Minister Macaulay, and Minister Mark for being with us here today. And no apologies, Minister, for calling you a lot of times. I'm sorry, I'm not taking that back. This investment shows your deep commitment to supporting the recovery and well-being of Canada's ill and injured community, while also keeping the Canadian tradition of supporting other countries in their processes of healing. With the announcement that Nigeria and Colombia will be joining Invictus, there are now 22 nations who will be welcoming to the beautiful landscape of Vancouver and Whistler, including, of course, the Ukraine. And I want to acknowledge the role that the personal role that Prime Minister played in getting the Ukraine included into the Invictus movement back in 2017. Thank you for that. It was an honour to see their presence in The Hague recently. As the country's national foundation for its military community, True Patriot Love is honoured to have been able to lead the Games, lead in bringing the Games back to Canada once again, and in introducing the concept of winter sports for the very first time. The introduction of new snow and ice sports will mean that veterans can try new adaptive winter activities for the first time and to continue to participate year-round so that their journey of recovery does not end at the final whistle, but become a lifelong opportunity. But the Invictus Games is not just about the competitors, they're also about families. I've had the privilege of being involved in the Invictus movement since its inception, and I remember way back at the first Games in London in 2014, talking to the spouse of one of the UK team, and I asked what it was like to have him to be part of the Games. And through her tears, she said to me, "I've got my husband back." Invictus inspires people to begin what are often long, difficult and painful journeys of recovery from injury or illness, and we heard some moving testimonies of that just prior to today's event. It saves marriages, it changes lives, it saves lives. At the recent Games in The Hague, a survey was done of the competitors and the participating teams, and of those who responded, 1 in 10 of the competitors said they would likely have taken their own lives if it wasn't for Invictus. It is not about winning or losing. It is about the friendships, the togetherness, the growth that comes with being able to wear your country's uniform again, for being who I am, as the original poem from Henley said, to be the master of my fate, to be the captain of my soul. Through the 2025 Games, we will also aim to highlight the proud service given by First Nations and Indigenous members of Canada's armed forces for more than a century. And I also want to extend my thanks to the First Nations, to Chief Sparrow and the Musqueam, to Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh and Lil'wat Nations for joining together and welcoming us and the world to their lands. H'ka. All of us look forward to working closely together to build a Games that furthers the recommendations laid out in Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action, and to ensure Indigenous protocols are respected in all aspects of the Games. On behalf of everyone involved in securing the first ever Winter Invictus Games for Vancouver and Whistler in 2025, thank you for being here today, and thank you again, Prime Minister, Premier, for this incredible support. Thank you. Merci. H'ka.
Thank you very much, Nick, and thank you to True Patriot Love, à la grande patrie. Encore une fois, un gros merci au gouvernement du Canada et à la province de la Colombie-Britannique pour cet engagement incroyable. There will be media opportunities following this event with Minister Macaulay, with Nick Booth, with Natasha, and some other Invictus athletes. I had the opportunity just before this to try the wheelchair curling, and let me tell you, this is a lot of fun, and I do encourage you after this to take some time to go to the back and give it a try yourself. Let's get excited for Invictus Games Vancouver-Whistler 2025.